Hello, and welcome to the Energetic Psyche, Season 3. I'm Dr. Adrian Campbell, and I'm really glad you're here. Today's episode is Releasing the Chains of Motivation. So every year, I create a new board on Pinterest full of images that represent things I want to experience in the coming year. It's sort of like a digital dream board, if you will. Often this board is peppered with images of quotes. So this year, like every other, I began by going back through the boards I created in previous years to see if there was anything I wanted to bring forward. While I was reading through a lot of the quotes that I've been using for inspiration and motivation over the years, I realized many of them were hitting me differently. One in particular, which is one of my favorites by Anais Nin, is life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. And as much as I've loved this over the years, this one felt especially irritating this year. So I took some time and I sat with it. So over the years, this quote really has motivated me to have courage, to push through, to fight for what I wanted. But this year when I sat with it, what I heard, what I felt, was if you aren't courageous, you'll live a small and meaningless life. And well, I just don't believe that's true. The quote didn't change, so what did? I guess to put it simply, I did, right? I think, in fact, I know, as we experience life, we grow through different moments and relationships, and the way that we view the world shifts and changes. We experience bursts of intense joy, moments of debilitating sadness, and all of these bring new meaning into our lives. So of course our relationship to certain words will shift and change as the depth of our lived experience alters the perspective from our internal looking glass. For me, I think what hit most differently from this quote is small life. I think I used to believe that I always wanted my life to grow, to expand, and definitely not to shrink. But what if shrinking my life is exactly what is needed? What if expanding my life isn't what's best for me? Like many of us, I've spent most of my life in a state of growth. And now, in my mid-40s, I find that I'm wanting to settle in. Not settle, mind you, but settle into who I am, what I enjoy, the life that I've built, and really take the time to enjoy it. And I think that is courageous. Making the choice not to shrink or expand, but just to be. Because, and here's another one of my favorites, the world needs who you were made to be. Now, this quote was made famous by Joanna Gaines recently, but the sentiment has been shared in various ways across multiple texts and, of course, motivational posters, etc., for years. But what does this quote mean to you? As someone who was, if I'm honest, a bit obsessed with growth, hey, I got a lot of Jupiter in my chart, okay? This quote always felt very heavy, very responsibility-laden, because what I heard in this quote was, the world needs you, and you're supposed to be a certain way. No pressure, right? So the very possibly autistic ADHD, high-achieving perfectionist in me took this as a challenge, as motivation to keep fighting, to keep going, to keep trying to fit in and be who I was supposed to be, whoever that was. But nowadays, no thanks. I'm busy just being, right? Yeah. I gotta tell you though, I know myself so much better than I ever have. And I do know that the world needs me to be exactly who I am, without the struggle, exactly who I am without the fight, exactly who I am when I am still and doing nothing more than breathing. So after all of that, sitting with the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, I decided I could keep this one. It just needed a little bit of a reframe. But there were quite a few others that didn't make the cut. And to be honest, it was kind of like saying goodbye to old friends. These were quotes that I had clung to for years, that I had shared with clients and students in my writing, my teaching, and well, now they just don't sit right anymore. One of my other favorites was, dreams don't work unless you do. But this just simply isn't true, and I know this now. This for me has been replaced with, the more I relax, the more I receive. The universe doesn't respond to my effort. It responds to my frequency. There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than you are capable of living. Now, this is a quote from Nelson Mandela. This one, it's a beauty. I've lived it for many years. But again, it brings so much pressure for me, so much pressure to be growing and pushing and creating and striving. And to be honest, these days I prefer John Steinbeck's. And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. So I didn't have to reframe or ditch them all. There is one that stuck with me for many decades now, one that reminds me that every action, no matter how small, matters, and that no matter what I do moving forward, I have already succeeded. From here on out, everything I do, every change that I create in the world is just a bonus. And this is a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. That is, to have succeeded. So what quotes motivate you? And have they changed over the years? For the next few moments, I'm going to walk you through a somatic exercise to explore your own motivational quotes. Feel free to pause me here, like just pause the podcast, okay? And then take a moment to go locate a quote that you'd like to use during this practice, or you can use the one that I am offering and come back later to work with your own. All right, if you're ready, let's begin by settling into your body. Whether you're seated, standing, or even walking, though if I'm honest, you'll get better results from this practice if you are in a safe and comfortable space and able to close your eyes. All right, either way, here we go. So, settling into your body, closing your eyes or lowering your gaze, taking a few deep breaths, and just allowing the exhale of the breath to be a little bit longer than the inhale. Breathing in nice and deep and exhaling out, allowing that exhale to be a little bit longer than the inhale. And just taking this breath a few times. Nice deep breath in. Nice long exhale out. Then go ahead and release any control over the breath and just return to your natural breathing pattern. Now I'll invite you to notice into your body, just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. No judgment. We're not trying to change anything. We're just noticing, creating a kind of baseline of sensation, if you will. Now, if you have a quote that you'd like to work with in this moment, say the quote to yourself 3 times. And if you don't have one handy, feel free to use this one. We only regret the chances we didn't take. We only regret the chances we didn't take. We only regret the chances we didn't take. Now take a breath and notice how your body feels in this moment. Did anything shift or change? Now it's important to remember that everyone is different and we all have different somatic cues. But for me, when something doesn't sit right, it often feels heavy in my chest or my stomach might get tight. And when something does feel right, it almost feels like space opens up in my chest, like I can breathe easier. I might even feel more grounded or lifted up from the feet. So as we notice into how we're feeling, does any of this resonate with you? How did your body respond to the words of the quote? Now we're going to recite the quote again, And again, if you're working with your own, feel free to recite your own quote to yourself. If you're working with mine, I'll recite it for you. We only regret the chances we didn't take. And now I want you to ask yourself, do you feel supported or shamed? Do you feel inspired or maybe desperate? Do you feel encouraged or pressured? And based on these responses, somatic, energetic, emotional, thoughtful, is this a quote that you want to carry into the new year or not? And feel free to do some journaling about this experience. I invite you to use this practice to explore any other quotes that you've been attached to, any song lyrics that you sing often, really any words that accompany you in life. And then empower yourself by choosing the ones that resonate with love and support, and just ditch the rest. I'm wishing you the best for 2026 and beyond. Take care.